Hey, how come you guys you're not working this weekend? It's Memorial Day weekend. Okay, well, why does that matter? Because we are honoring people that have died in war. Okay, that's cool. I just don't understand why you need to be not working during that time. Does that have something to do with honoring the dead? I'm gonna go out and have alcohol publicly, and I'm probably gonna be near water of some description, like a lake, in my boat, to honor those that have died. I don't know why do you need the whole weekend to honor death? This is like a normal thing. You're not sounding very patriotic. I don't know why you don't have Labatt Blue in your hand, or whatever American alcohol is. I'm just saying. Well, I don't know. I'm just, I'm working on the weekend for your ass. Why don't you just do something? Oh my. Because we honor the dead by not working and getting fucking drunk. It doesn't sound like you're really honoring the dead, but more just using it as an excuse to be an idiot. No, I don't think you know how it goes over here. Yo, what up? This is Mike. Mike and the Mechanics. Look at this fucking. Look at this shot, dude. Look at this shot. We got a good shot. I don't know, man. I don't like how I could be so serious all the fucking time. It's not as enjoyable for me. Anyway, hi, hello, welcome. What are we doing today? Well, we're talking about a couple things. What are the things that we're talking about? Said your grandma. I'm gonna tell her this. I don't know yet. How are we doing today? Are we doing okay or no? A lot of interesting things sometimes will pop in your head at some random ass point in life. A lot of mine happen to be just how people are, and I just get weirded out by them and stuff, and the things that they do, and how they talk, and what they think about. You see people, you're like, go do something. You're gonna go bump it, and then it's not strong. Go have fun somewhere else. I want you, man. You need to swing, you're waiting, and when you bump it, you went whoa on it. Yoko. There's no point. He's one of the biggest babies in the whole house. One of the most ancientest babies of all. Don't rub on this, it's not strong. It's made of aluminium, because why wouldn't it be? And would you be here? Oh, look who's on the camera. Look up, say hello. I gotta go. I'm out of here. Okay, thank you. Yep, go on. Go place. No. I'll pick you up again. I know you don't like to be picked up. I'm pick you up. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Oh. See? I hate this shit. I know you do. Well, if you're gonna annoy me, I'll annoy you right back. What do you think? I'm a baby. I'm one of your big babies. I hear you. Boop. Okay, let's just relax. I think he hears me talking. He's like, I have to yell too. I need to also scream. I'm not screaming, Gok. I'm talking with English. Anyway, what the hell was I talking about? There he goes. Don't look at him though, because he'll come back in. What am I talking about? Well, I think life is interesting in so many different ways. I have been getting more and more into history. Like I said before, I've had kind of passive been doing it. But god damn it, every fucking day it's just getting more and more interesting. Especially because of how everything is now. With the whole erasing of history kind of shit. All the more reasons to kind of delve into the reality of the situation. And man, Is it so true about mythology and history? I don't remember if I was talking about in the last video. I don't remember anything all the time, so I'll say that a lot. But I don't remember if I was talking about in the last video the idea of mythology and history. Now, I think I was. I'm pretty sure I was. Mythologizing it. What can we glean from those stories? And I was talking about how you can find elements of truth within these stories. And so I'm thinking maybe there's some sort of connection to our like consciousness. There's a couple avenues I'll go down with this, but I'm thinking with our consciousness, like we either unlock it in some way, shape, or form, or just access it, being that it's everywhere. Now, interestingly, you notice that there's a common thread of story that's kind of always told, like, you know, hero's journey, or even aspects of certain elements of historical events or like mythological events. You know, you see many different versions of the flood story throughout cultures. You see many different versions of, you know, the story of the biblical kind of stories, and like the people that were within the Bible. Many cultures claim that those people spread out and went here, here, and here, and you know, the sons of the, I don't remember what it was. Like I said, the 3 videos ago or 2 videos ago about like this, when the great grandson of Noah founding Ireland and stuff like that. So it's like, are they kind of borrowing the same things because, you know, that's in, I wouldn't call it in vogue, but it really mattered with the whole like finding a connection between peoples and biblical peoples. You could make an argument for that and I'd understand it, but I often wonder too, is there some sort of connection to these stories and some sort of truth within that? Now, I think I was reading a Greek story about, oh God, let me just remember now. Let me go get the book and I'll find out. Don't do that again. The story of, I'm not gonna like read it, but in here it's like of Hercules or Heracles, whichever one you want, happened upon this place, and it was in Troy. There was some sort of sea monster who ravaged the land, and it was made by, I guess, Poseidon, and so it would carry off farmers and blah blah blah. Now they gathered together and sought for deliverance for their misfortunes, and the king and they dispatched a mission to Apollo to inquire the gods regarding what had befallen them. Blah, blah, blah. And then they found out, well, he's pissed at us. They would cease when the Trojans should of their free will select their children and deliver it to the monster for food. Right? So the monster's on the shoreline, apparently ravaging shit. And then they're like, shit, man, how do we stop this? Well, we have this, we'll offer up our children or something like that. And then they said it was, I think it had something to do with like this queen, or no, this princess who they were going to sacrifice, and then Hercules stopped it and then saved the day, basically. I think he slew the monster. I swear I've heard that somewhere else. In fact, I think I heard it in a Celtic story, if I remember correctly. I swear I've heard this story. Or was it a Finnish story? I don't know. Because it's just like, that sounds vaguely familiar to me. And like, I swear I've heard of that before. Yeah, it is a story, a Celtic story. I do not know how to say that. Asipatl and the Messer Stoorworm. So it's like the same story, essentially. I mean, along the same lines where this monster appeared. And apparently the sorcerer said, well, feeded every Saturday with 7 young maidens. That's different than children. But I just remember, then the monster stretched out its long... Yeah, okay. But like, I'm not saying it's because it's not original or something, but it's interesting to see, like, it's just a small story that you wouldn't even know existed unless you were to like really know some of your like folk tales and shit and, you know, ancient stories. But there's weird similarities there. And so I wonder, like, okay, like, did someone hear someone's story and go, well, that's pretty fucking cool, I'm gonna do it too? Because that's what we see in our modern world. So in my mind, you have to kind of think about society the way it works now. Like, how different could it have been back then? You know, like, think of it like this. So there's someone, what is that called in the modern culture? This helps if you remember things. There's like a real version of a story, but then there's like fan fiction of it. And I know that fan fiction apparently gets dirty, but non-dirty ones. Right? Or is that what they call it, fan fiction? Or weird creepypastas, apparently, is another thing that exists. And we think about like sampling music, and we think about like, we do that so much in this modern era where we just like, think of the fucking movies that keep getting put out. They're just another Pocahontas movie, another fucking Little Mermaid movie, another Lion King, you know, whatever. And I'm not gonna make claims about what it is now, because, you know, there's a whole agenda to what's going on right now, but it like, you think of it like that and you're like, well, was the same shit happening back then as well, where it's just like borrowing from borrowing from borrowing from borrowing? Well, like, why wouldn't it be? That seems to be the logical choice in your mind. So like, for instance, this story of Hercules happening upon the situation, almost as if he walked in on this Celtic tale being told. Was that just a story like, that's fucking cool, man, like, we need to have our version of it? Is it merely coincidental? Or is there something more to it? Like the story of the Garden of Eden. And then you hear about the one with Zeus and Hera. Something about the golden apple or something of that nature. I think apple is... wasn't it apple and like fucking sheep are the same word in Greek or ancient Greek? I don't remember. But you wonder, like, okay, is that just coincidental? The flood myth, is that all just coincidental? You know, did this guy say flood myth, and then all of a sudden, hundreds of years, and it comes to this land, and they're like, well, this fucking guy talked about some sort of flood. You know what? Here's what I think it was, and then they have their story, and then these people have their. Is it something like that? Is that cultural passing of something? You know, we like to think that there's no such thing as originality, but what if there is such thing? We're just caught in the same stories. We just keep retelling them over and over and over again. How many times can you tell the story of the hero's journey? How many fucking times? You know what I mean? Is there something more to it, though? Are these stories tapping into something ancient? That's where it's like, you know what I mean? Like, how can you figure that out? You know? That's the part where it's almost like, I don't even know if it's possible to figure that out. What are we doing? Are we telling the same stories over again? Or is there some sort of underlying truth to them all? That's always like a puzzle that I always try to solve in my head, but for the life of me, I don't think it's possible to solve that puzzle. I really think that there's no real way to figure this out. Wait a minute. Interesting. I saw there. Okay, never mind. But I might be able to use that later. Steal it off it and have it put it on. Woo! Now, I don't know though. It's so hard to tell. You know, you can't really. We can't figure that one out as hard as you might try. I just don't know. I mean, it was really weird that when I heard that story, the one of Hercules and the fucking serpent, the big sea monster ravaging the coastline and stuff. And then I just like something familiar, and then I don't know if it was just because I read it in here, but when I don't know, it feels even older than that, because I mean, I read this, well, I don't know, a few years ago at the most, maybe a year ago. I don't remember when I received it, but I don't know. But it felt like I had heard it even before that. That's what I don't understand. Like, where are all these memories coming from? You know, like you feel like you ever heard a story and you're like, man, I feel like I've heard that before. Like, was I a kid and was it in school and they were telling us about old myths? Was there something more to it? Who knows? But there's a familiarness with it. And I wonder if there's a connection to familiarity in a story that you need to hear by someone else echoing it. So let's say I write a story and it echoes an ancient story that rings true to people and I don't even realize it, or maybe I do realize it. That part doesn't matter. Will people just pick up on my book and really like it because of that fact? Because it tells like a truth somehow ancestrally and it's deep down and we just know it? Or is it merely, no, like you wrote a story and they heard as children because in those days in school this was part of this curriculum that they were reading this and you forgot about it and you all did and you had a nostalgia trip, and that's why when you wrote about it you tapped into that and you could all relate to it again. But even if that's the case, like, would that be something magical within it itself that we're all identifying it? I don't know. Like, stories can do that, though. They can, you know what I mean? Like, things of your past can come up again. I don't really know a whole lot of, like, the curriculums in school when I was growing up, because I fucking wasn't, you know, I don't have any, you know, memory of it all, because my memory is fucking horrible. I do think that there's a merit to that side as well. I don't know. Like, what are stories anyway? And I just kind of keep thinking about, like, ancient mythology and thinking about, like, what was the point of telling a story? Like, what exactly is the point of that? What is within the story? Like, what, you know, like, at the end of the day, why do we tell stories, I guess, simply, let's put it simply. Why do we tell stories? Is it purely just to teach? Is it purely just for cultural purposes? Is there something greater to it? Why would I want to tell you a story? I mean, as someone who's trying to write a book, that's something I ask myself all the time. You know what I mean? I feel like if you have a job, if you do a thing, you should know why you're doing it. If you're trying to invent something, well, you should know why you're inventing it, right? If I'm trying to write a book and I'm trying to tell a story, what is it? Why am I trying to tell a story? Shouldn't I answer that? Should that be, I don't know, like, you know, what's the point of it? What are we trying to do here? I feel like every day that answer changes. You know, for 1 minute I'm trying to tell a story to help people. Another minute I'm trying to tell a story to teach people when it comes to, like, emotional and consciousness growth. And then on another time I'm trying to teach them to examine the pitfalls of humanity. And then sometimes I'm trying to show them, like, you should look into history. You should see what's really going on. And then other times I might be doing it as purely like, it's great to have a fantastical story and I want to, like, take someone away when it comes to escapism. Like, it changes so much. But what is the core of all that? Like, what's the core of telling a story? All of those things. If you break all of those things open, what do they have in common? You could say in some ways there's like an egotistical thing, like, why do you feel like you need to be the one? I think about that a lot, I'll be honest. Like, why am I the one that has to do this? Why couldn't someone else do this? I don't know, but that's another fucking topic. But like, why is it that you do it? I mean, that's the main proponent of this video now. Why is it that you feel the need to write a story? Who is it for? Because there's so many avenues to go down. So many different avenues. I already named a few. You could go down any road, but like, do they share a common bond? Is there something that can guide them? Why do you feel like your voice needs to be heard, or, you know, the written word? Why does that need to be seen? I mean, for me, a question like this is super vital. Because, like, for instance, everything in my book, I will sit down like this and think, like, why exactly does this need to be said? Why exactly did this happen? Why exactly did this person do that? Or whatever it is, I'm always trying to precisely gather why things are happening. So for me, it's innate to say, well, fuck, why are you doing this? Why do you do what you do? I think it's a very fair question to ask yourself when you're in the middle of your rut, when you're in the middle of the things that you just do unconsciously. I think it's a good idea to say, wait a minute, why am I doing all this? What is the point of this shit? What's the reasoning behind the fucking stuff that I'm doing? Can you even answer that, you know? I'm not saying because I can. I mean, hell, I'm wondering right now. And you get so caught up in things that you just realize, like, wait a minute, why am I doing all this? What the fuck is this? Is this for me? Or is this for someone else? Am I the one? Is there something to it? I don't know. It's just so hard to tell. It really is. What is a story? What is it about the written word that's so... I don't know. Like, it's elusive to me. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily fascinated in a sense where I love reading, because if I did, I'd be reading more. But I'm so fucking fascinated with things. With words and with books. You know, I never was until, I don't know, a month ago. And now I'm like, wow, there's something within this. I started to really see it for what it is. Like, there's a place where the written word is gathered and bound into, and it's protected by these two layers, and there's words within there. I don't know what the oldest book is that I have. Right now, the oldest known book, I would say, is from I think that one's from the 1870s. And it's in really rough fucking shape. But, because nobody fucking took care of it. But I recently purchased 2 books about the Middle Ages, which I'm so excited to read about. They're from 1899. And as I received them, I said, like, this is really fucking cool. I opened the book and like the words were in there, and just, it was special. It's like you encapsulated something, and finding the meaning of why I write is within that feeling. When I'm reading these books and I'm just like, it's holding knowledge. You know, like, these are like reprints of reprints of reprints, and they're the Loeb Classical Library of Theodore Siculus's Library of History, and these I think were made in like the 50s, maybe. Was it the 50s or the 70s? Originally in the 30s, right? This one's from 2006, but yeah, they originally made in the 30s, and they didn't redo it till the 50s. And though this is not one of the original ones, I may have one, I don't know, but it's so interesting to kind of, you know, go in here and find these words. And these words are so close to the original man who wrote it in the year, what is it, 80 to 20 BC. Whenever the fuck that was. You know, like, it's a bit of a gap. Or wait a minute. 400 to 300 BC. Okay, Greek historian ca 80 to 20 BC wrote 40 books. He was born in 80 to 20 BC? Wait, no, that makes sense. Greek history between 480 to 300 BC? I don't know what they're claiming there, but BC times. And that's a man's original words. And when he kind of has these segments that I don't know, I'm seeing a little bit in the history of Ireland as well, where he kind of relents in some ideas, like, well, you know, we like to think that this is this, and what we stated here should suffice, you know, and we feel that we no need longer have to talk about this in any detail, for it's covered quite well. And he kind of relents in ideas like that, or, you know, he'll say, you know, I don't know, items that are lost, if you will. Another thing, like you'd see in the History of Ireland book, would be he's trying to prove that the history of Ireland's real. And because he's trying to prove it's real, he's like, that shit fucking shut you up, motherfucker. You goddamn modern scholars. And he's just basically using the idea of the original origin myth of Ireland as if it's real. And then, you know, believe what you will of it. But a person's personality went into that book, and into this one, and into all the other books that I have. Someone's personality went into it in some way, shape, or form. It's kind of like a timeless thing, an ageless, timeless thing. You put yourself within this, whether that's a nonfiction or a fiction, and forever it shall be there until those words disappear. So it's a form of like immortality, right? Like in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not a divine immortality, but a human-made one, where I can tell you something and you damn well won't forget it for quite a while. So what is mythology? It seems like mythology rests on the same lines of a cultural thing like that, like remembrance or keeping intact what story of whatever you're talking about, whether it's like a Greek story or a Celtic one or some other fucking fantastical story. What is it trying to hold on to besides a person or an event, or maybe even a groups of people? It's keeping them alive. It's putting within these pages, it's putting in there a stamp. This existed. For instance, this person existed. These stories mattered. This history mattered. You know, even like books that are like Arabian Nights. What is Arabian Nights? These events, these little stories, they mattered in that moment. They were told. Lord of the Rings. This fantasy. What is Lord of the Rings even? Like, in the scheme of things, what is fantasy? What can we trace its roots to? What is the point of all this? Why do you write what you write? And there's got to be, like, those have to be the elements to it. They most surely have to be. I don't really know. It's, you know, I'm riffing the idea, but like, what exactly is writing? I don't know many writers at all. But I've met a few. But the few that I've met share with me the common bond of they don't like to write. I fucking despise it myself. It's annoying. It's the most ridiculous goddamn thing to do. It's so hard, but it's so easy at the same time. I don't understand it. Why is it so difficult to put down on paper that which with you want to say and which you want? Why is the idea of the story of Hercules and the story of King Arthur, why do those have any importance? And you lay them next to, fucking down here I'm just looking, Lord of the Rings. Why do those have to be remembered? Why do we have to have those stories? What's the point of them? Why did Sir Thomas Malory feel like he needed to talk about the death of Arthur? Why did the person who created the Golden Fleece story, why did they feel like they needed to talk about that? Or the guy who wrote Wheel of Time. Why? Or even like there's Ayn Rand down there. The Fountainhead, which I've never read. That was given to me, but it's not my style. What's the point? Why was that written down? Why do we need to write all that down? Why do we need to waste our time? Or the Lost Paradise. The story of the downfall of Satan and all that. Like the fanfic, basically canon of the Catholic belief of heaven and hell. Why do we need to write that down? I understand the top part of my bookshelf, and that's history. I can understand why we need to remember things, but then again, why do we need to have history? Why does that have to be written down? All of these things share in common the idea that they are stories that have to be written. Have to be written and have to be read. So, I'm writing a book. Why do I feel like my story has to be fucking written? Do I feel like I have that much of like, oh man, like they need to know this? It's egotistical, is it not? Just to think that? To say that, oh, you have something that you think people fucking need? You know, fuck the profit thing. Fuck that side of it, making money off of it. But think of it purely as the side of like, as an author to, not his audience, if you will, but something of that nature. What exactly does that even mean? I don't know, but for me, when I'm writing, like, what am I writing it for? And that's hard to answer sometimes. Does it make any sense? I don't know. Like, this whole video was just a pure ramble. Fuck if I know. But I don't know. It's so difficult sometimes. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. This might be an incoherent ramble. It feels like it is, but I'm trying to say, like, why do you write? Why does the written word need to be read? Maybe we'll riff this a little bit more, then we'll send a better one out. Fucker.